Welcome to another episode of TI Talks, the TechInformed series where we discuss the latest tech trends and insights. Today, you have joined us for a very special episode. It is the last of the season. Changing it up a little bit, instead of having a special guest, I've got three. I've got all of my fantastic co-hosts and colleagues from TechInformed, starting with our rambunctious reporter, Nicole.
Hello, everybody.
Our dynamic deputy, Anne-Marie.
Hi.
And our enigmatic editor, James. I chose enigmatic because the definition is difficult to interpret, and because of the accent, we all get a bit lost sometimes.
That's a fair point. I feel like I can't say much. I just need to nod and enigmatically.
Man of mystery. So since this is our season finale of TI Talks, I've decided that we're going to reflect on the entire first season. And we're all going to discuss our favourite episodes, our favourite guests, and then we'll end with a few of our predictions or hopes for the next season. So to kick things off, I'm going to come to you first, Anne-Marie, put you on the spot.
All right, okay.
Which episode from season 1 of TI Talks stood out to you the most, and why?
Was it hard to kind of pin it down, but I really liked one of our most recent interviews with Farmer Craig.
Farmer Craig.
Mainly because he offered me a job. I get to remotely help with the farming of a Midwestern field because they've got all these sensors and all these remote cameras. And it just requires someone now to sort of track and monitor the field. And you can do that from anywhere, which is amazing, really, when you think about it, because it opens the door to a far greater range of workers. When you think of farmers, your definition is very narrow, and I feel that with new technology, it really opens up the fields.
Oh,
So to speak.
Can I chip in and say that we need to be careful who we pick as guests, because if they keep on trying to poach our deputy editors, then we won't have a podcast left to do.
Maybe I'll meanlight on the side a bit of farming. And then I was also really grateful to Danny Jenkins from the cyber firm Threat Locker for taking time out during the CrowdStrike outage to explain how it was caused and what lessons we could learn from it. He was very busy because he was helping lots of firms get back on their feet after the blue screen of death occurred. So that was an interesting one.
Remote farm management was a really good episode, actually, and just a really cool concept. And I really want to see what happens when you actually try to control a tractor from your phone, like halfway across the world. It's really cool.
We recommend memories of playing Farmville or playing Harvest Moon or games like that.
And where we are now, it's a premonition, really, when we thought about it. But I think that the idea of automated tractors is truly groundbreaking.
Very left field.
Moving on, Nicole, now it's your turn. What about you?
My favourite podcast was with Naomi Owusu that me and Ricki did together. She's the CEO and co-founder of Tickaroo, which is a live blogging platform that media publications use to live blog. And we spoke to her about disinformation and deepfakes and how social media is impacting that, and then how publications can tackle it. So she said that with the live blogging, because we all find out at once, it's not the media publications first, that when a deepfake post goes viral, they can just do a live blog saying, we've seen this, we're just going to authenticate it, and then next they can authenticate it. And so I just thought it was just an interesting different angle, rather than just attacking it, and how publications can target deepfakes.
Yeah.
I think they're going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah.
Increasingly so. I mean, we've written a bit on deepfakes this year on TechInformed, and I think it's been such a kind of important topic with the elections and with everything else that's going on. So to have a kind of more positive spin on them, or how to deal with it, is really, really interesting. And especially when we see some of the other microblogging websites, no names mentioned, extra, where it's becoming an increasing problem. There's platforms out there that are kind of offering better solutions to deal with it.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Naomi had such a good energy as well. She was really bubbly and fun.
I know.
Yeah, it was good to have her around. And that, like James said, deepfakes and misinformation is a perpetually hot topic. So it's something that we cover quite a lot on TechInformed. So it's good to have like somebody come and speak to us on the podcast about that.
Yeah, and I thought it was quite a nice, because that first post of saying we've seen this, we just need to authenticate it, is because it's nice that they can do that authentically and say we don't know yet. And it's also just a reminder to the reader that they don't know yet if it's real or not, and to question whether deepfake, whether a post they're seeing, whether it's a video or audio or even just text, is real or not.
Yeah. James?
I think my favorite was with Kelly Vero. She is an author, founder of a firm called Naked, and you were talking about energy. I think she was nuts, wasn't she? And I say this with all the love if Kelly listens to this, because she is a character, and that's sometimes the best kind of experience. We had such a range conversation. We brought her on initially to talk about security in the metaverse, and how businesses and enterprises can make sure that if they're dipping their toe into immersive technologies, make sure that they were secure. But during the course of it, I don't know how you edited it, Ricki, because we covered so much ground. She was talking about some of her favorite people in tech who she'd met, and I'm not going to mention names, some of the ones she doesn't like as much. But at the same time, just gave real insight into, she really knew her craft and knew her area, but was just a really, really interesting person who I've not laughed as much on a podcast, making a podcast, as that I did that day. And I think there were times where I was just thinking, okay, we need to rein this back in, because when you're interviewing somebody who's got so much to say about different topics, you're trying to control the interview, but at the same time you want to give them space to really explore them. So I had a lot of fun. It was challenging, but it was really, really good fun.
Yeah, she had a lot of energy. It was a great, like, kind of like a breath of fresh air, really. Like, it was a really fun interview to do. And she also, like you said, she has like 30 years experience, like, in her industry, in her field, and also like really varied experience as well. She just works in like gaming and fashion, and, you know, there's the whole gamut of wherever tech can touch, really. So it was really cool to get the perspective from someone that has got so much experience. But I was thinking the whole time, should I have invested in a censor button just to like push, just in case, because I wasn't sure if she was going to drop an F-bomb. She didn't, but the threat was always in the back of my mind.
I was lawyers on speed dial as well. It was just like, yeah, she's going to insult someone, and then we're going to have to cut that out. But fortunately, she maybe restrained herself, self-censored a little.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she was quite unfiltered. You rarely see that in tech these days.
Yeah.
And I thought she made a good guest, and I think, you know, if we could vote, it would definitely be one of our favourites.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But we let James have it.
I think one of my favorite episodes was when we had Lisa Soto, who was a lawyer, and she came on to talk to us during the whole NPR data breach scandal. And it was really interesting because she gave us the perspective of what happens during a cyber attack from lawyers, which is not really a perspective that we cover very much. You know, we always talk about either the IT teams or the like senior leaders or whatever, but we never actually consider like when the lawyers come into it. And so that was it was a really interesting perspective, and I learned quite a lot from her insights in that podcast. As, for example, the fact that if in the US, if a company is being extorted by a sanctioned group, they actually legally are not allowed to pay the ransom, like even if they wanted to. So that was an interesting fact that I didn't know. But that was you were on that episode.
That's right. And she also had quite a lot to say about journalists reporting hacks, and how hackers can manipulate kind of journalists when they first launch a cyber attack, and that we mustn't be the mouthpieces for these people. I thought that was a really interesting point. I hadn't really thought of that before.
Yeah.
I think that episode as well dovetailed with some of the coverage we did later, like after you'd gone to Black Hat and did the kind of anatomy of a cyber attack stuff, and we saw what it was like on the ground for the people dealing with it. And then if you add into our coverage overall, I know they were done at different times, but you kind of get the full picture of the people who were dealing with the cyber attack, which, you know, not to big TechInformed up, but I don't think every site, every one in our industry is kind of covered in that much detail, that kind of range of coverage. And she made really interesting points that you wouldn't really think of unless you were a lawyer.
Yeah. So we have clearly covered a very vast, diverse range of subjects on the first season of TI Talks. So now I would like us to move forward, looking ahead to season 2. And I'm going to ask the team, what do you want to discuss in season 2? And I will start again with Anne-Marie.
Well, isn't it interesting that we've discussed who our favourite guests are, and 3 out of 4 of them were women. But I think we only had those 3 on. I don't know how many TI talks we did. Was it about 10?
Oh, I think it might have been a few more than 10, but maybe about 15, I think.
So there were 15 and only 3 women. So I'd like to see a lot more women across a lot more kind of areas involving tech. And I'd also like to maybe focus on some of the sort of the positive things about being a woman in tech and all the different roles within it. Because as is it Shonda Rhimes said, you can't be what you can't see. And there are so many invisible roles in tech that I feel that we could bring to the fore so that the next generation of kids say, oh, like, I can be that. Or, I could be a UX designer for Love Island. Yeah, anything, that's a tech job. And that's, that might be appealing to, someone younger.
Yeah.
Because it is fun working in tech, isn't it, Nicole?
Yeah,
You get to travel, you get to meet interesting people.
Mhm.
You get to see how people are like really impacting businesses and lives.
You're so right. You just need. Sometimes you just don't know what there is out there for you, and especially as a young girl, you really don't know what opportunities there are if you just do IT. So
That sounds boring. I work in IT. Sounds really boring. There's anything but.
I know, and since coming into this job, you actually realise there's so many cool jobs that cover basically everything now.
Yeah, it's such a broad church, such a broad spectrum.
Yeah, and I guess the introduction of AI into everything kind of has opened everything up to everyone in terms of even like education and learning about how to do certain roles that, those avenues may not have been open to certain groups before, but now information is decentralized and democratized.
I think there's a sad truth as well. I mean, we're a team 4 at TI, and we have 2 brilliant women on our team. But the fact is that if you look across tech, we all go to lots of events and interview a lot of people. We try to be very, make sure we're kind of representing all voices at TechInformed, and we always have ever since we launched. But the fact is that the industry is still a bit of a man's world. It shouldn't be, and it doesn't need to be. And you do have a lot more female leaders or people in senior roles, but then you go to events and it's still, a lot of men speaking quite often, who are the CEOs, not at every company, and it's that representation's actually maybe taking a step back this year with some of the organizations. We wrote a lot about organizations and stuff in our Women in Work report, but we've seen things like Women Who Code and stuff like that close this year. Organizations that are trying to promote, encourage women to get into STEM subjects
and raise the visibility of women working in those areas.
Yeah. So there's kind of we're at a weird position, I guess, in the industry where there's been really good strides made, but there's still ways to go. And that's kind of reflected in the fact that when we're getting pitched guests or when we're looking for guests for TI Talks, we've not deliberately, but we've ended up with more male guests than female just by the nature of the industry.
See, I disagree. I think it's on us to try harder and to push back when PRs constantly pitch the same type of person.
Yeah, I am always very conscious of like what kind of guests we have on. So not always women, but I'm also thinking about other kinds of diversity as well. So a lot of the guests come from maybe different backgrounds and different socioeconomic backgrounds as well. But definitely there's more scope to have more women in the next season.
But just to kind of come back, because I agree with you, by the way, that it's on us to make that kind of change. But the fact that we're getting pitched so many more male
on the
guests.
PRs too. Please pitch more women PRs.
Is it Nicole? What do you want to see in season 2 of TI Talks?
Well, I thought that after this year, with being such a huge year of AI, I think we need a reminder of the environmental impact that AI has had. I did a really interesting article earlier this year that highlighted that every 20 to 50 questions you ask ChatGPT takes up 500 milliliters of water. So it's just, I feel like we just need to talk to people that are tackling the environmental impact that AI is having, because we just need a reminder after all the excitement of this year, and probably what's to come too.
That's a lot of water. That's making me
I know.
That's you just drank 20 questions on ChatGPT.
It's like playing a drinking game. Somebody mentioned AI.
GPT. Yeah.
That's a good one for Chris.
Do that with vodka next time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that we have covered that a little bit actually on TechInformed. We've spoken about that kind of stuff. And I know that when we interview people that do work in like AI and know a lot about data centers and stuff, I think we are always mindful to ask them about the energy consumption.
how they mitigate that.
Yeah.
My wonderful colleagues who've gone for really good causes, because I'm going to go totally different. I want cool stuff. I want more people talking about things like robots. I think the farmer example was a really good illustration of the kind of diversity of tech that we cover. So not diversity in tech, but the actual range of technologies we cover. And I want to hear about somebody who's doing something really, really cool or exciting, who's at the forefront of robotics in healthcare and helping people who couldn't walk again, or using, like, we've written about some of these stuff, but I'd quite like to get them on as guests, because tech is fun. Like, there's cool stuff that we get to see at lots of the events that we go to, and interesting stuff that we cover that we maybe as a story on a podcast would work really well, but also just it would be fun to talk about and to learn about. So yeah, I'm gonna go for more cool stuff, more characters as well, big characters. Just we talked about it before, but having those people who you don't know quite what they're gonna say or where they're gonna go really catch you off guard, and I really enjoy that. So
You might get invited to play with some of the tech as well, like Anne-Marie was with the farmer.
yeah, they might try and recruit you.
That actually segues quite nicely onto what I was going to say that I want to see in season 2 as well, which is to do with the health tech stuff. We had Rob Pereira from Pico come on and talk to us about how XR, like headsets, are used in medical procedures. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's so much cool, like, health tech and like medical tech that's out there. And I think that, yeah, we could have other people on telling us like about how the other leaps and jumps that technology is taken in that space, and how technology is like saving lives. It's really interesting.
100%.
Yeah. But that does bring us quite nicely to the end of the episode. Before we wrap up, does anybody have any final thoughts that they want to share on season 1 of TI Talks?
I just want to give props to you, Ricki, because you have been leading on this for us, and have been on every episode of it. You edit everything, and you've done such a great job of kind of pulling it all together. It's really been transformative for us. Obviously, when we get a new season, there's a new opportunity to explore new ideas and look at how we present TI Talks. And obviously, from our audience, and of our regular listeners, we'd love to get feedback as to what they think we should do, and who they would like to hear from as well. But yeah, I just wanted to give you props as well, because yeah, you've done a great job.
This season break is actually for me, that I can relax, not to stress over editing episodes every week. That's also why I'm sick. So I'm actually just being signed off for a whole week.
I am just driving you too hard, clearly.
What about you guys? Any final thoughts?
Just reiterating everything that James said, but like also the point about it'd be nice to hear from listeners what they'd like to hear.
Thanks so much for listening as well.
Yeah. So firstly, I would like to thank all of our guests that have joined us, our special guests, some of the ones that we discussed in this episode. It's really, really great to get so many different perspectives, and for all of you sharing your time with us, we really appreciate it, and so do our listeners, I'm sure. And then I want to thank all of my wonderful co-hosts, James, Anne-Marie, and Nicole, for joining us every week and helping me get through every podcast. And then finally, thank you to our listeners and viewers for sticking with us for the whole season. It's been fun. And next season, I'm sure, is going to be way more fun. So please stay tuned. So as mentioned, we are taking a little bit of a break, but we do have a couple of special episodes planned over the holiday season for you to fill your boots as our gift to you. And we will be back in the new year with a second season of TI Talks. So thank you for listening. And for the final time this year, stay informed.